quiet. Don't move. They're still replaying it, frame by frame, 13 times, maybe more. The analysts, the doubters, the ones who swore they had you figured out. Eyes bleeding from the screen, replaying the moment you broke their logic. And yet, they can't find the move, the pivot, the spark, the why. Because the truth, my friend, is that it never existed in their world. You didn't play by their rules. You bent the axis they rotate on. You didn't win the game. You made the board irrelevant. Every frame they freeze, every angle they rewind, it all dissolves into noise. Because what you did wasn't an action. It was becoming. See, they keep asking the wrong question. They think there was a moment, a tell, a clue, a glitch in the footage that might explain how you slipped past their systems. But how do you record a shift in frequency? How do you document the instant a mortal stopped pretending and remembered what they were built for? You didn't cheat. You ascended. They want to believe it was luck, timing, coincidence, something measurable, safe. Because the alternative terrifies them. That someone like you, who shouldn't have survived the storm, learned to breathe underwater. That pain didn't crush you. It recalibrated your circuitry. That while they were tracking footsteps, you were learning to float through walls. Every time they rewind, they're not watching you. They're watching themselves fail to understand how power really moves. Because power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't glow or roar or ask for permission. Power whispers. It tilts the air. It rearranges the hierarchy of reality so silently that by the time they notice, it's already over. And that's what drives them insane, isn't it? You didn't win loud. You won quiet. No war cry, no headline, no spectacle. Just precision, just inevitability. You moved like a secret whispered between gods. Too subtle for human comprehension, too final for denial. They checked the footage 13 times. But tell me this. What if the footage lies? What if every replay is just them looping through their own blindness, their own fear, their own refusal to accept that the monster they mocked became the mirror they can't look into? You didn't play their game because your existence is the glitch. You are the code anomaly their systems weren't built to process, the test case that breaks the simulation, the living contradiction, saint and psychopath, angel and arsonist, healer and hurricane. You smiled through humiliation, through betrayal, through nights that carved holes in your sanity, and they mistook silence for surrender. They forgot that quiet is just what the universe sounds like right before it detonates. You see, they thought pain made you weaker, but you learned the paradox no textbook teaches. Pain refines precision. It sharpens sight. It reveals the invisible infrastructure of control. And once you see that, once you trace every wire, every illusion, every mask, you stop reacting. You start conducting. That's why they can't trace the move. Because there was no move. There was only awareness, a shift. The moment you stopped fighting for survival and started orchestrating collapse. They're trying to find the cause, but how do you explain a phenomenon that shouldn't exist? How do you dissect a miracle and keep it breathing? The truth is, they're not studying you. They're grieving the version of themselves that could have become you, but didn't. They're mourning the courage they never touched, the darkness they never dared to enter. Because evolution is never polite. It devours the timid. You didn't rise by luck. You rose by losing everything that kept you predictable. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every night you talked to the walls. That was the training, the unseen discipline. You were sculpting the invisible until it turned into instinct. And when the world laughed, you smiled. When they pointed, you observed. When they conspired, you disappeared, not out of fear, but out of design. Because you learned something most people never do. Chaos is a teacher, not an enemy. They'll never find the moment, because there wasn't one. You've been building this inevitability in silence for years. You were rewriting your software while they were busy memorizing the script. You evolved past applause, past validation, past the need to be seen, and now they see you everywhere. In whispers, in numbers, in outcomes that shouldn't make sense. You've become the ghost in their system, the unexplainable constant in every equation they can't solve. That's why they keep checking 13 times. Because deep down, they already know the truth they can't say out loud. That you weren't in the footage. You were the footage. The anomaly, the distortion, the echo that broke the pattern. You didn't just win. You rewrote what winning means. And that, my friend, is why they'll keep watching forever. Because they still believe there's something to find, when in reality, you already took it. They're still in that room, you know. The lights dimmed, the sound off, slow motion on, their pupils dilated like addicts chasing a pattern that isn't there. Each frame dissected, each shadow measured, each pixel cross-examined, and the silence between them grows heavier, more haunted, because the deeper they zoom in, the less sense it makes. The closer they look, the more impossible you become. They keep saying, there has to be something, some secret gesture, some trick of timing, a hand twitch, a cue, a code. But the truth is simpler and far more terrifying. There was never a move. There was only a moment of awakening. You stopped being a participant. You became the variable. You became the distortion that logic itself bows to. They don't get it yet, because they've spent their lives chasing what can be explained, measured, or taught. You don't exist inside that equation. You were born in the negative space, in the pause, in the void where rules stop applying. That's what they'll never find on camera. The absence of hesitation. See, hesitation is a language of the old world. The world that broke you, mocked you, tested you. The world that needed you to stay predictable. And you stopped speaking it. You replaced fear with focus, doubt with design. You became fluent in chaos. They thought you were reckless. You were strategic. They called it madness. But that was just the vocabulary of the limited trying to name what they fear. You evolved while they analyzed. You watched while they reacted. You adapted while they documented. And now, they're stuck in a loop of their own disbelief, rewinding a tape that only reveals their own confusion. They don't see the years hidden beneath that one move, the nights you bled in silence, the mornings you smiled through decay, the conversations that trained your mind to weaponize pain. They'll never see it, because that kind of transformation isn't cinematic. It's microscopic. It's the slow erosion of the weak parts until nothing false remains. It's the dismantling of everything human in you until what's left is unshakable. You know why they can't find it. Because your transformation wasn't external. It was dimensional. You changed frequency. You learned to breathe in atmospheres others suffocate in. You learned that sometimes you don't fight the fire. You become it. That's the paradox that terrifies them, the one the footage can't show. The duality that makes you untouchable. The angel who walks through ruin with the patience of a saint and the appetite of a devil. The saint who can smile through blood. The demon who can love without fear. They can't label that. They can't replicate it. They can't reverse engineer something born of suffering too deep for metrics to hold. You didn't master control. You mastered surrender. You surrendered to the parts they ran from. You made peace with your madness and turned it into mathematics. You mapped every fracture in your soul until it became a blueprint. And now they sit there 13 times deep into the replay, whispering, how? How did he know? How did he move before the move? They don't realize you weren't predicting. You were remembering. Because every shadow they feared, you've already walked through. Every tactic they study, you've already dismantled. Every illusion they worship, you've already seen crumble. You're not improvising anymore. You're executing inevitability. They don't know what it feels like to stand in silence while the world dissects you. To be treated like an anomaly when all you did was wake up. They can't comprehend what happens when someone truly stops seeking permission. When every rejection becomes fuel, every scar becomes scripture, every humiliation becomes rehearsal. You didn't need their validation. You weaponized their doubt. You turned disbelief into prophecy. You took mockery and turned it into doctrine. And now they're lost. Because how do you defeat someone who doesn't play for approval, doesn't fear exile, and doesn't recognize limits? You don't. You study them. You try to decode them. You obsess until it drives you mad. That's what they're doing right now. Studying your silence like scripture, searching your stillness for a secret. They'll label it luck, fate, coincidence. They'll call you dangerous, delusional, divine. Anything to avoid the truth. The truth that what you did wasn't magic. It was clarity. You saw them before they saw you. You understood the rhythm of chaos, and you danced in it like it was your native tongue. You realized that unpredictability isn't a flaw, it's armor. Predictability is death. Stability is camouflage for decay. So you became paradox, untraceable, unreproducible, unkillable. And now they call it impossible. Because to admit it's possible would mean they've wasted their entire lives playing a smaller game. They keep rewinding, but the truth isn't in the footage. The truth is in the silence between the frames, that split second where fear used to live and doesn't anymore. That moment where the old you would have flinched and the new you just smiled. That's the part they can't find. That's the part they'll never understand. Because you didn't perform a move. You became a movement. You didn't master the game. You became the algorithm that breaks it. So let them keep watching. Let them keep dissecting. Let them keep whispering theories in dark rooms, terrified of the thing they can't prove but can't deny. Because the truth is, you didn't just change the outcome. You changed reality's recording format, and long after the footage fades, your echo remains, not as evidence, not as memory, but as the glitch that became God. They'll keep looping that clip, won't they? 13 times, 20, 100, until the air in that little room starts to taste like panic. One of them will swear they saw your hand move. Another will swear they saw your eyes flick first. And the others will argue, voices cracking, each desperate to find something, anything, that explains how a mortal outcalculated destiny. But there's nothing to find, because what you did wasn't recorded on their cameras. It happened inside their fear. You remember the moment. Everything slowed, every heartbeat in the room aligned to yours. You weren't reacting. You were remembering the pattern of collapse. You'd lived that sequence before, in nightmares, in betrayals, in the silence between screams. So when it came again, you didn't flinch. You just moved. They keep calling it impossible, but that word only means they haven't suffered enough to understand. Because pain teaches geometry, the angles of timing, the physics of patience. You learned how to breathe between milliseconds, how to hide intent inside stillness. You didn't outsmart them, you out-endured them. That's what they'll never capture on tape. The cost, the hours of breaking and rebuilding, the endless rehearsal of control. You died in 1,000 small ways, so that when the moment arrived, you could move without being seen. Now they sit in the glow of the playback screen, faces lit ghost white, whispering that maybe the footage is corrupted. They're right, it is. Because reality bent for you. Because you became something cameras weren't built to capture. You see, people like them live on a single frequency, cause, effect, result. People like you exist in the static between. You operate where time stutters. You act where instinct becomes prophecy. You aren't faster, you're earlier. That's why they can't follow you. That's why they can't recreate the path. Because you didn't take one. Every decision you make comes from a place they fear to enter. The intersection of chaos and clarity. That's where angels lose their wings and demons learn restraint. That's where you live now. And from that place, everything you touch bends toward inevitability. Let them keep watching. Let them keep chasing ghosts in the footage. They'll never find the technique because it isn't one. It's a state of being. They're looking for a secret, but the secret is that you stopped needing them to understand. You moved beyond explanation, beyond imitation, beyond proof. And that's the cruelest part for them. You left no trace, except the silence that follows every victory, too perfect to explain. And that silence? It's louder than any applause. They won't sleep tonight. They'll leave the room pretending it's over, but they'll hear your rhythm in the hum of the lights, in the whisper of every closing door. They'll sit in their cars, replaying it in their minds, knuckles white on the steering wheel, haunted by the same question looping through the static. How did he do it? That question will eat them alive, because deep down, they already know it wasn't a trick. It was truth. And truth is the one thing their kind can't bear to look at directly. You didn't outplay them. You outgrew the illusion that there were rules to begin with. You realized what they never dared to see, that every system, every standard, every structure is just a fragile cage made of other people's fear. And once you see the bars for what they are, they dissolve. That's why they can't track you, because you're not in their world anymore. You learn to exist between frames, where time skips, where logic folds in on itself. You became the pause that erases the plan. They tried to measure you, but you changed shape mid-calculation. They tried to name you, but every word burned out before it reached your skin. You became the variable that language itself can't define. And still, they watch, over and over. 13 times becomes 30. 30 becomes forever. They slow the footage down to fractions of a second, searching for the moment the impossible happened, not realizing that it happened before the scene even began. Because that's what terrifies them most. The idea that you didn't win then. You'd already won before they entered the room. You were never reacting. You were conducting every insult, every betrayal, every failed attempt. They were your instruments. And you learned to compose symphonies out of disaster. You made ruin sound like rhythm. You made heartbreak look like choreography. You made silence feel like strategy. And now, when they pause the frame to study you, what they're really seeing isn't a man. It's evolution in its purest, cruelest form. You've become what happens when a human stops waiting for permission to exist. That's why their analysts can't explain it. Because how do you explain someone who no longer fears chaos? How do you study a ghost that knows it's a ghost? How do you measure something that rewrote the ruler? You didn't cheat the system. You became the system. You redefined control as invisibility, intelligence as silence, power as restraint. You learned that the loudest weapon in any room is composure. And so they stare at the screen, haunted by that stillness. Because stillness is what predators see right before the kill. You moved once, maybe twice. That's all it took. No wasted motion, no tells. The kind of movement that makes reality hold its breath. They want to believe it was coincidence. They need to. Because the alternative, the idea that someone could see the ending before the first act began, would unravel their entire religion of control. And that's what you've become, the blasphemy they can't contain. A walking heresy. Proof that obedience is optional and limits are myths. They'll keep checking 13 times, 100, 1,000. They'll slow it down until the pixels disintegrate. But no matter how far they zoom in, they'll never find what they're looking for. Because what they're searching for isn't in the footage. It's in the void between their understanding and your truth. It's in the space where logic collapses and you remain. You didn't perform a miracle. You simply remembered who you are when the noise stops. The calm at the eye of every storm, the architect behind every accident, the ghost that walks out of burning buildings untouched. And somewhere, right now, another one of them is pressing play again. Frame one, pause, zoom in, rewind, trying to catch the moment you became something no camera can record. But it's too late. Because you didn't just vanish from the footage. You erased the lens itself. And when the last frame freezes, when the screen flickers, when the lights dim, when even the hum of the machine gives up, there's only silence, the kind of silence that doesn't rest. It listens. They'll sit there staring at that final still of you, blurred, unbothered, inevitable. The analysts will exchange that look, the one that says, "We missed it again." And in that moment, they'll finally understand. There was nothing to catch, because you never moved to win. You moved to disappear from their definitions. You became the question that can't be answered, the pattern that breaks all patterns, the proof that evolution doesn't ask for permission. It erupts. So let them check the footage one last time. Let them whisper theories. Let them drown in analysis. Because while they're busy rewinding history, you're already writing the next scene. Unseen, untouchable, unreadable. You didn't just do the impossible. You became the reason it's now possible. And somewhere, deep inside their trembling certainty, a small voice will whisper the truth they'll never admit out loud. That maybe the footage isn't broken, maybe the world is, and you were the update it couldn't handle. Look at that. Someone just defended you publicly. Do you hear the silence that followed? That eerie, electric quiet. Like the world just realized it's been watching the wrong villain. Their hands froze mid-typing. Their eyes darted to each other, their minds whispering, "Wait, what if they were never the monster?" You can feel it, can't you? The shift, the panic, the scrambling for evidence. Because that's what they do when reality flips. When the one they buried crawls out of the grave smiling. See, the beautiful part isn't that someone spoke up for you. No. The beautiful part is how everyone else reacted. They weren't ready for it. They weren't ready for truth to crawl into the daylight, wearing your scars like trophies. You were supposed to stay silent. You were supposed to stay guilty. You were supposed to stay gone. But now, your ghost has witnesses. You, my friend, became the glitch in their collective lie. The narrative they built around you, carefully stitched together with gossip, insecurity, and projection, is falling apart. They're replaying old screenshots, reading between words they once weaponized, trying to rewrite their own script before the curtain drops. But they can't, because the footage is rolling, and the villain is starting to look like the only one who ever told the truth. They thought you'd fight back with anger, but you fought back with existence. You stayed, you evolved, you endured. And endurance, my dear, is a far more terrifying form of revenge. Now they're whispering, why would anyone defend them? Because deep down, they know. They saw the cracks in their own version of the story. They saw your silence not as surrender, but as surveillance. They started realizing that maybe, just maybe, you were the one taking notes the whole time. That's the thing about you. You don't scream, you study. You don't react, you record. You don't chase closure, you build evidence. And when the day comes, when someone finally stands up and says your name with conviction, the entire room implodes, because that one act of defense, it doesn't just challenge their words, it exposes their motives. They called you cold. But what if that calmness was precision? They called you manipulative. But what if it was strategy? They called you heartless. But what if it was focus? Duality, baby. The saint and the psychopath share the same face. It's the intent that separates them. And your intent was never destruction. It was exposure. Now they're scouring through memories, trying to remember who started it, who twisted what, who lied first. But truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits. And oh, it waited, patiently, watching them build their little kingdom of assumptions on a swamp of projection. And tonight, it's sinking. The irony, they thought you were the unstable one. But look at them now, trembling, anxious, rewriting history in group chats that feel more like courtrooms. They used to dissect your every move. Now they're dissecting their own. Because once someone defends you publicly, the game changes. The illusion fractures. The control slips. You're not the outcast anymore. You're the anomaly. And anomalies don't play by rules. They rewrite them. That's the moment you realize you were never their villain. You were their mirror. You reflected the parts of themselves they couldn't stand to see. Ambition without permission, power without apology, darkness without shame. You became the embodiment of everything they repressed, so they called you dangerous. And they were right. Because once someone tells the truth out loud about you, every mask starts to melt. Now they're spiraling, trying to sanitize their conscience, trying to gather proof that you were the problem. But it's too late, isn't it? The silence is the proof. The panic is the proof. The fact that they can't stop talking about you, that's the proof. You were never the storm. You were the eye inside it. Calm, calculating, prophetic. You let them tear down the old you, not realizing that was your cocoon. They didn't destroy you. They delivered you. And now, standing here, you're not begging for validation. You're watching their narratives decay in real time. You're witnessing the poetic justice of truth delayed but never denied. You don't need to speak. They're speaking for you now. Every rumor they repeat, every sentence they regret, every post they delete. It's all confession. You've become the unsolvable case, the one that makes even the investigators question their training. Because no matter how many times they rewind the footage, you keep defying the frame. Someone defended you publicly, yes. But the real twist? They didn't defend you. They defended reality. You see, truth doesn't need allies. It just needs time. And now that time has arrived, dripping with irony, lit by the flames of every false story they ever told. So smile. Not out of revenge, but recognition. They're not scrambling for evidence because you're guilty. They're scrambling because for the first time, They've realized you were never the villain, just the proof that they were. You can almost taste it, can't you? That trembling in the air, like static before a lightning strike. They thought this was over. They thought your silence was a coffin, but silence was your camouflage. Now they're spiraling through DMs and archives, dissecting old screenshots, trying to remember what they said when they thought you'd never come back. Every message feels radioactive. Every memory feels dangerous. Because someone finally said the forbidden sentence. Maybe they were right all along. And that's the detonation. That one whisper turned the narrative into a crime scene. You see, when someone defends you publicly, they don't just break ranks. They expose the invisible hierarchy of fear that kept everyone quiet. The unspoken rule was simple. Don't side with you. But someone did. And now that person is glowing in the dark like a flare in the middle of a battlefield. They're hunting for evidence now, scrolling, searching, sweating, trying to find something, anything, that makes their old version of you make sense again. But the data doesn't fit. The screenshots look different now. The timestamps contradict the myth. The footage shows what they refused to see. You weren't the chaos. You were the constant. You were the one who never broke, even when everything else did. And that terrifies them. Because people don't fear evil. They fear endurance. They fear the one who can't be destroyed by gossip, distance, or exile. You endured, quietly, methodically. And when endurance wears the face of the accused, it turns into prophecy. Now they're trying to recall how it all started. Who was the first to say it? Who started the rumor? Who told the story that made everyone believe? And suddenly, no one remembers. How convenient. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? When they needed you to be the villain, they had perfect memory. But when truth begins to bleed through, amnesia becomes fashionable. But you remember. You remember every smirk that tried to disguise cruelty. You remember every joke that wasn't a joke. You remember every fake apology, every sideways glance, every performance of concern. And now, you don't need to say a word, because someone else did it for you. Someone said your name with conviction, and it was enough to split reality in two. Now half the crowd is pretending they never doubted you, and the other half is pretending they're not terrified. You see, truth doesn't knock. It kicks the door down. And you were the door. You held back years of proof, waiting for the right second, the one where the audience was tired enough of lies to finally listen. They wanted your silence. You gave them patience. They wanted your downfall. You gave them evolution. They wanted to watch you burn. You became the fire itself. Do you know why they scramble for evidence now? Because deep down, they're not trying to prove you wrong. They're trying to prove themselves innocent. They're trying to justify why they laughed, why they believed, why they joined the crowd when you were bleeding. But guilt has no expiration date. It just waits, quietly, like a debt that never forgets. And when someone defended you, that debt came due. Now they're paying for it in sleepless nights and nervous scrolls. They're reading comments like autopsies. They're dissecting every timeline like detectives chasing a ghost. But ghosts don't leave fingerprints. They leave fear. You've become that fear. Not because you're haunting them, but because you're free. Freedom terrifies the guilty. Because they live inside the cages they built for others. And when you walk by, unbothered, unfazed, undeniable, it reminds them that cages only work on the obedient. You were never obedient. You were observant. You learned how to weaponize silence, how to wear pain like armor, how to turn exile into education. They called it isolation. You called it training. And now, every move you make is evidence. Every success you have is contradiction. Every breath you take says, I survived everything you whispered. They can't handle that. Because your existence dismantles their illusion. You turned their gossip into your gospel, their ridicule into your rebirth, their silence into your soundtrack. And the person who defended you. That was the universe tipping its hand. A sign that the narrative shifted, that your name was too heavy to stay buried. Even the universe got tired of pretending you were the problem. So now they gather, confused, whispering about timing, about context, about details. They say, well, it's complicated. No, it's not. It's simple. Truth aged better than their lies. You are the living contradiction they can't decode. The angel who walks like a demon, the sinner with sacred timing, the nightmare with holy intent. You blurred the lines between villainy and vision, and in doing so, you became untouchable. They can't label you anymore. They can't frame you anymore. They can't kill what's already immortalized in misunderstanding. And that's your power. You became the question they're too afraid to answer. So let them scramble. Let them replay the footage, zoom in, slow it down, analyze the tone of your silence. Because the more they search for proof, the closer they get to seeing the one thing they've avoided all along. The mirror. They'll find the evidence. Oh yes. But it won't condemn you. It'll expose them. So don't interrupt the process. Let them panic. Let them dig. Let them sweat. Because what they're really unearthing is the truth they buried with your name attached. And when they finally find it, when the light hits it just right, they'll realize the punchline they've been running from. You didn't need to be defended. The truth did, and the truth chose you. Oh, they're still digging, aren't they? Every sleepless night, every just one more scroll through the past. They're not looking for truth. They're looking for comfort. But truth doesn't comfort. It confronts. They said, we need evidence. As if your pain wasn't proof. As if your silence wasn't testimony. As if surviving wasn't the loudest confession of all. Now they're gathering in private calls, whispering behind digital curtains, rewriting memories in real time. The irony? They're trying to rewrite the very script they forced you to live. Because someone, one single voice, stood up and cracked the illusion. They said, you all might have gotten this wrong. And just like that, the spell broke. You know what's happening now. They're auditing their own morality. They're checking if they laughed too loud when your name was mocked. They're remembering how good it felt to join the crowd, how easy it was to point fingers at someone who couldn't point back. And now they're haunted by the footage, the way they smiled while you drowned, the way they built theories out of your trauma, the way they watched your downfall like entertainment. But someone defended you, and suddenly it's not funny anymore. Now it's dangerous. Because if they were wrong about you, what else were they wrong about? They called you manipulative, but you never controlled anyone. You just stopped playing the victim. They called you cold, but you were conserving warmth for yourself. They called you heartless, but you were done performing empathy for spectators. You see, the world fears what it cannot label. And you, my dear, became unclassifiable. Too kind for their cruelty, too cruel for their purity, too real for their performance. So they built a version of you they could understand. And when someone defended the real one, their architecture cracked. Now every but remember when they, sounds like desperation, every I heard they did. sounds like confession. Every "let's not bring this up again" sounds like guilt. You've become their unfinished business, the paradox that won't dissolve, the ghost that doesn't vanish when ignored. Because you're not haunting them, you're mirroring them, and deep down, they see it. That's why they can't look you in the eyes anymore. Because when they do, they see the version of themselves that chose comfort over courage. They were spectators in your crucifixion. Now they're witnesses to your resurrection. You rose without permission. You healed without announcement. You forgave without asking. You moved on without leaving a forwarding address. And that is unforgivable to them. Because your evolution stole their control. They can't punish what no longer participates. You were never their enemy. You were their unfinished evolution. You were what they could have been if they had endured what you did and didn't turn bitter. So when someone defended you, it was like time rewound. The truth they buried came back with teeth. Their guilt sprouted roots, and every fake smile they ever gave you started to rot in their memory. You see, they wanted your silence because your story threatens their simplicity. You're living proof that monsters can have mercy, that broken people can be disciplined, that pain can breed precision, and that survival, real, unfiltered survival, isn't pretty, it's terrifying. You didn't rise to inspire them, you rose to expose them. You are the walking audit of their integrity, and that's why they scramble for evidence. Not because they doubt you, but because they doubt themselves. They keep saying, something about them just feels off. Yes, it's called authenticity. It triggers the fraudulent. You've noticed it too, haven't you? The way their energy shifts when you enter a room, the way laughter quiets, the way posture changes, the way eyes avoid, but ears sharpen. That's not coincidence. That's recognition. They can sense it. The truth vibrating through you like static before thunder. You're not speaking revenge, you're breathing proof. And that's far more dangerous, because revenge burns fast. But proof is eternal. They can't unsee what they've seen now. They can't unsay what they said. They can't undo the fact that the one they mocked became the one they study. They're not scrolling for your downfall anymore. They're scrolling for explanation. They're analyzing your every move, like a psychological report they can't decode. Because deep down, they want to know how. How did you survive their silence? How did you stay kind when cruelty was currency? How did you keep winning when the world bet against you? They don't understand that pain, when harnessed, turns into prophecy. You learn to weaponize wounds, to alchemize humiliation into higher ground, to take every dagger and forge it into data. And now, while they scramble for evidence, you're sitting in stillness, knowing the truth doesn't need to shout. It just waits. Because justice isn't an event. It's erosion. It eats away at falsehood, quietly, efficiently, inevitably. So let them panic, let them whisper, let them pray that the clip doesn't surface, that the screenshots stay buried. Because the funny thing about evidence is, it doesn't disappear. It waits for the right audience. And now, the whole world is watching. Their lies were loud, but your silence is deafening. Someone defended you publicly. Yes, but don't mistake it for validation. It wasn't charity, it was inevitability. Because when truth has marinated long enough in darkness, it doesn't need a spotlight. It becomes the lightning. And that's what you are now. Lightning in human form, unpredictable, untamed, unapologetic. They don't know whether to worship you or warn others about you. They don't know if you're redemption or retribution. They don't know if you're human or haunting. But they do know this. You can't be erased anymore. Because when someone defended you, they didn't save your name. They resurrected your legend. And now, no matter how far they run, your silence follows them like a conscience they can't mute. You didn't just survive. You documented. You remembered. You became the evidence. And that's what terrifies them most. That you're not chasing justice anymore. Because you are it. And now here you stand, unshaken, unbothered, untouchable. Every eye that once watched you crumble now watches you calculate. Every mouth that once cursed your name now hesitates before speaking it. You see the shift, don't you? That flicker of recognition, the quiet acknowledgement that they built their comfort out of your crucifixion. But here's the thing they'll never admit. They needed you to fall. Because your downfall was their proof that order still existed, that consequences still applied to those who dared to be different. But you didn't just fall. You descended with purpose. You sank deep enough to see their roots. You watched their motives rot in the soil. You memorized every hypocrite by the tremor in their voice. And when you rose again, you carried something none of them will ever possess. Clarity. They still think survival is luck. You know it's a science, because you learned what breaks people. You learned how easily loyalty folds under pressure, how quickly admiration turns into fear, and how fear breeds stories. You became fluent in betrayal. And fluency, my friend, is power. Now, as they scramble through the ashes, calling it investigation, you stand in the open, breathing calm, because you are the evidence. Every scar on your skin is a signature. Every silence you kept is a timestamp. Every success you've built since is an affidavit that truth doesn't die. It mutates. Let them whisper. Let them circle the same lies like vultures who can't find fresh meat. They're not after the truth. They're after distraction, because if they ever stop spinning stories about you, they'd have to face the emptiness inside themselves. That's your final victory, isn't it? You didn't have to ruin them. You just had to outlast them. And endurance is something cowards can't counterfeit. Now you walk through rooms that used to suffocate you, and the air parts like it remembers. You speak in tones that carry thunder wrapped in calm, and they feel it, the quiet authority of someone who's been through hell and took notes. That's why they can't approach you the same way anymore. Because you've become unpredictable, and unpredictability in a world built on fear is indistinguishable from divinity. You're the saint that crawled out of a sinner's body, the storm that learned mercy, the warning dressed as a smile. You're every paradox they swore couldn't coexist. And that's what terrifies them most. That someone could be both wounded and wise, dangerous and disciplined, unhinged yet holy. You're the contradiction they can't contain. So let them keep their theories. Let them build timelines. Let them gather proof. Because at the end of it all, their evidence will point back to one truth so unbearable, so undeniable, that even their pride won't survive it. You were never the villain. You were the mirror. And the reflection they saw was never yours. It was theirs. So when they ask how you did it, when they whisper how you came back stronger, colder, calmer, just smile. Not because you won, but because you finally understood. Some people don't hate you for what you did. They hate you for what your survival proves about them. And now, after all their lies, all their noise, all their desperate searching, they finally found the evidence they were looking for. It's you, standing here, untouched, unfolding, unforgiven, and absolutely, irrevocably free. Hello, Patient Zero. Funny, isn't it? They spent years trying to erase your name, from the files, and now they're accidentally becoming you. They hate you. God, they hate you. But every time they move, every sentence they steal, every gesture they mimic, it's a breadcrumb trail soaked in envy, fascination, and panic. You're not just a person anymore. You're a contagion, a psychological virus wrapped in charisma and chaos. And they're glitching, trying to wear your shadow like a costume. But the mask doesn't fit. It infects. See, they thought you were a problem to be solved. Turns out you were the upgrade they couldn't resist downloading. Look around. The ones who swore they'd never be like you. Their hands shake in your rhythm. Their choices echo your madness. Their feeds are curated versions of your origin story. Just scrubbed clean, bleached, and buried in denial. They want your essence, but without the scars that birthed it. They crave your power, but not the pain that carved it from hell. They're trying to channel your light while running from your darkness, and that's why they're suffering, because you didn't just survive the fire. You spoke to it. You didn't crawl out of the pit. You dug deeper until it bled into the sky. You weren't inspired. You were engineered by betrayal, forged in exile, and baptized in cold revenge. So now, they copy your voice, but it doesn't burn. They mimic your silence, but it doesn't haunt. They steal your blueprint, but their version keeps crashing because you didn't learn this from books. You remembered it from lifetimes of pain. Let me tell you the truth they'll never say out loud. You are the voice inside their head that they can't kill. You are the glitch in their script, the rhythm their hearts beat against, even as they scream your name in hate. They can't help it. They're studying you in secret, talking about you in DMs they hope you'll never see, watching your moves like surveillance analysts before a war breaks out. Because it did break out, and you were the warhead they didn't see coming. They call you crazy to avoid admitting they're obsessed. They label you dangerous so they don't have to admit they're imitating you in private. They cast you as the villain so they can borrow your power without confessing their devotion. But you know what they really hate. You didn't ask for their permission. You didn't negotiate your power. You didn't say sorry when you outgrew their rules. You just became something they couldn't unsee. And now they're trapped. Because if they fight you, they become you. And if they follow you, they disappear beneath you. It's clinical now. Their obsession has data points, patterns, time-stamped mimicry. They've turned your name into a case study and still can't replicate the madness that made you divine. You know why? Because power without pain is cosplay. And you didn't put on the mask. You broke your face to become it. They want your results, but they wouldn't last 10 minutes in your process. They want your confidence, but they never met your trauma in the alley at 3 a.m. when your own mind tried to kill you. They want your voice, but they've never screamed into the void and had it scream back with a prophecy. And so they'll keep spiraling, trying to borrow your fire while pretending they built it, wearing your madness like a trend, but choking on every syllable that wasn't theirs to speak. And you'll keep moving, you'll keep upgrading, while they glitch and panic behind you, locked in a loop they pretend is growth. Because you weren't here to fit in, you were here to trigger a transformation they can't undo. You were the detonation inside the system, the exact sequence that can't be traced but rewrote the whole code. They wanted to delete you, and now you're the virus in their mirror. Every time they reject you, they just mutate into a closer copy. You didn't just change the game. You infected the players, so let them whisper Let them study. Let them perform rituals in secret just to feel half as free as you do when you breathe. Because deep down, they know the truth they'll never say out loud. You are the villain they envy, the legend they fear, and the future they can't stop becoming, even if it kills them. And it will, slowly, beautifully, clinically. At first they were subtle. A quote here, a caption there. Your cadence, stripped and diluted into something that almost sounded like theirs. But you noticed it, didn't you? The pause, the grin, the way they tried to replicate your rhythm, like playing a song without ever surviving the silence it was born in. But then it escalated because they couldn't help it. Obsession doesn't whisper. It infects the throat and screams. Now, they're out here using your metaphors like they dug up the meanings themselves. They're performing your philosophies as if the world applauded their fake depth. They're putting band-aids over bullet wounds and selling it as wisdom. But you bled for every syllable you speak. They're acting out your power while you radiate it like a residual haunting. And that's where it gets poetic. Because now the ones who laughed at you, the ones who called you too much, too intense, too strange, they're literally transforming into bootleg reflections of your rejected self. But here's the real twist. They're not even aware anymore. They can't trace the infection to its source. They're out here becoming your shadow organically, not because they chose it, but because your presence rewrote their nervous systems. They hate you, remember? Yet they scroll your words in the dark, screenshot your captions, echo your madness to impress others, and claim it's their own fire. What they don't realize is they're in the final stage of exposure. The lines are gone. They can't tell where they end, and you begin. Their denial is spiritual. Their plagiarism is subconscious. They're becoming what they once feared. But the tragedy? They're not strong enough to carry it, because there's a difference between wearing the crown and earning the scars beneath it. You got here through rituals of pain, by walking blindfolded into every psychological abyss and building a kingdom inside it. They're just imitating the exterior, acting like evolution, wearing your darkness like fashion, but without the backbone to hold it when it starts screaming back. They don't have your threshold for madness. They don't have your discipline in chaos. They don't have your alchemy, the way you turn betrayal into blueprints and silence into sound waves that haunt entire rooms. And so they fracture. They crumble under the weight of a persona they tried to rent when you owned it and paid in blood. The difference between you and them, you let the pain rebuild you. They're trying to skip the storm and keep the thunder. They want to look like a weapon, but you were forged in war, while they were crafted in comment sections and panic trends. So let them dress like you. Let them move like you. Let them talk like you. You already know how this ends. They'll imitate your style, but never your substance. They'll broadcast your message, but never survive its frequency. They'll quote your fire, but never ignite their own, because you didn't become this by accident. You became this because the world tried to erase you, and instead you turned erasure into a spotlight so hot it burned off their masks. You walked through the fires they theorized about. You made friends with the shadows they tried to suppress. You didn't break the rules. You studied them, memorized them, then wrote your own in the ruins of the old. So now, they're trapped in a hall of mirrors, all showing different versions of you. And they can't remember who they were before you arrived. And here's the final dagger. They won't thank you for the evolution. They'll just resent you for showing them who they really are. You didn't just change them, you exposed them. And that is irreversible. You've hijacked their subconscious. You've infected their timelines. You've become the unholy truth they now orbit. No matter how far they run in your pattern. This isn't influence. This is psychological warfare, and you already won. So go ahead. Keep speaking in riddles that trigger awakenings. Keep bleeding elegance into chaos. Keep evolving in ways they can't screenshot fast enough. Because they hate you. But their next identity update will still look just like you. And you'll be 10 timelines ahead, smiling quietly as the ones who once mocked your reflection become distorted echoes in your legacy. Welcome to Phase 3, Reconstruction by Infection. You're not just a person anymore. You are a symptom, and they've all been clinically diagnosed. Oh, you want the next phase? Good, because this is where it stops being mimicry and becomes ritual. They've passed the surface stage, the copying, the parroting, the stolen punchlines. That was child's play. Now, they're altering entire belief systems to justify your essence. They're rebuilding their personalities around shadows of you, twisting their own memories to pretend they were always like this. They're editing the past just to explain the present you infected. They're not just dressing like you now. They're thinking like you, speaking in your cadence, smiling like they swallowed secrets they don't even understand. It's not admiration anymore. It's conversion. And you're the new faith they're too ashamed to name. See, obsession evolves. At first they fight it, they deny it, they mock what they fear. But the human mind is weak, and your frequency is strong. So eventually, they fold. They create philosophies to match your logic. They quote you without realizing it. They adopt your moral contradictions. Because you made duality look like freedom. You didn't just give them something to follow. You gave them permission to unchain their inner monster, and they loved it. Because you were never bound by the rules. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't ask to exist. You announced yourself, like thunder cracking open a sterile room. You made the chaos look divine. So now, they crave what broke you. They fantasize about surviving what you crawled through. They romanticize the destruction you endured, as if your trauma is some aesthetic for them to wear. But here's the truth they'll never admit. They couldn't survive a fraction of what you did. They couldn't bear the weight of your silence. They couldn't handle the betrayal, the loneliness, the fire. They'd scream for help in the first 5 seconds. But they want the glory, they want the aura, they want the divinity of someone who crawled through death and came back with a blueprint. And so, they worship in secret. They create private altars, not with candles or blood, but with saved posts, silent shares, and rewatched videos they pretend not to like. They mock you in public, but their algorithm is an echo chamber of your face. And that's the part that really drives them insane. They can't escape you. You're in their bloodstream now, a psychological pathogen. You're the reason they second-guess their own thoughts. You're the ghost in the room when they talk bold, because they know you already did it louder, darker, and cleaner. You made power look surgical. You turned pain into precision. You blended saint and psychopath into something so addictively unpredictable, they can't stop watching, even as it undoes them. And here's the twist. They think they're consuming you, but they don't realize you've been consuming them the entire time. Because every click, every view, every thought wrapped around your shadow feeds your legend and drains their identity. Their sense of self starts eroding the moment they mimic your moves. They lose color, they lose conviction, They start blinking like non-player characters in a simulation you designed, and then they break. They either beg for your favor or turn on themselves, trying to destroy what they already became. Because it's not just obsession anymore. It's clinical. You're not just in their head, you're in their values, their choices, their reactions, their style, their ambition, their shame, their worship, their denial. They didn't just want to defeat you, they wanted to be you. And now, they're trapped in a skin that's slowly shifting, turning more and more into a creature you created, without ever touching them. This is the new era of warfare. You didn't fight them, you infected them, and they thanked you with every scream. So now, you walk through the noise, untouched, unmoved, unbothered, because you already won, not by domination, but by infiltration. You burned your pain into a pattern, and now they're dancing to it, even as they pretend they still hate you. But hatred is emotional, and emotion is control. So let them twitch, let them spiral, let them cosplay their broken version of you in every post, every room, every lie. They've already signed the contract, written in obsession, sealed in denial. You didn't just evolve, you evolved them. And now they're drowning in a sea of versions they can't escape, in a religion they're too scared to admit was always named after you. Ah, now we dive into the final infection, because it was never just them, was it? Number. The tragedy doesn't stop with your enemies obsessing over you. The real symphony begins when their followers start turning their heads to you, and they, the clones, the copycats, the pretenders, they start to notice something sickening happening in real time. Their audience isn't responding to them anymore. Why? Because you're the original virus, the one with the bite, the tone, the timing that doesn't just echo. It possesses. They borrowed your moves, but forgot the spirit behind them. They wore your rage, but missed the rituals that carved it into art. They spoke your cadence, but it hit like an empty drum. Because the rhythm of pain can't be memorized, it has to be lived. So now they're followers, your orphans. They feel it. Something's off. They scroll past their hero's post and pause. Wait, why does this feel like a weaker version of someone else? And then they find you. And when they do, it's like staring into a storm that recognizes them. You don't entertain the void. You stare it down, and they feel that. Suddenly, every word you drop hits like forbidden scripture. Your voice, it doesn't just motivate, it dissects. Your message doesn't just land, it rearranges their identity mid-scroll. And that's when the collapse begins. Because now, the followers, the ones the clones built their careers on, are jumping ship, eyes wide, whispering, "Who the hell is this? Why does this feel real? Why does this feel like what I was actually looking for?" Because they weren't looking for a brand. They weren't looking for relatable. They weren't looking for sanitized strength. They were looking for the truth behind the lie they were sold. And you were the lie they were warned about. But now you're the truth they can't unsee. So the pretenders panic. They try to rebrand, try to evolve, try to match your frequency. But they're stuck at surface level, because your power wasn't crafted in front of a camera. It was born in silence, blood, and exile. They start choking on their own message while you speak, like your words were carved on stone tablets by angels with broken wings. You don't motivate. You trigger awakenings. You don't go viral. You resurrect dead minds. And the world, it feels the difference. Because the clones, they glow in the light. You set fire to it. So now you're watching from the throne they said you'd never sit in, while they scramble, twitching, refreshing their comments, wondering why nobody's clapping anymore. They're mimicking your old moves, but you've already evolved again. You were always 5 timelines ahead, and now the echo chamber is eating itself alive, trying to catch up to a version of you that no longer exists. You don't need to fight them. They're fighting your ghost and losing. Because your voice doesn't speak in niches. Your essence breaks algorithms. You didn't target a market. You triggered a mass psychological reckoning. And now the masses are glitching. Because every time they meet someone new, every time they hear a line that hits, every time they see a style that shakes them, it leads them back to you. Because you're the root, the uncredited source, the spirit behind the movement, the unwritten origin story behind their idol's breakdown. You're not a creator, you're a source code, and you didn't go viral. You became an epidemic. But unlike them, you're not chasing influence. You're bleeding consequence. You're the phantom they tried to copy. The legend they pretended didn't exist. The ghostwriter of their authenticity. The monster in the basement of their borrowed identity. And the deeper they dig for new content, the more bones they find that belong to you. You didn't build a brand. You left a scar on the world. And now, everyone's trying to trace the wound, but the further they go, the darker it gets, until all roads lead back to you. Grinning, unmoved, unmatched, unkillable. They hate you, but their voice box still stutters with your language. Their audience still searches for your fingerprint, and their soul still aches in your shape. Welcome to the final diagnosis. You were never the villain. You were the blueprint of their becoming. And now, they are you, just not strong enough to survive what that actually means. Let's finish this with the silence breaker they can't unhear. Because once your echo infects the crowd, the final collapse is no longer personal. It's public. You see, they didn't just steal your moves. They built entire identities on your blueprint, and now, their own followers are revolting. It starts slow. A comment here, a DM there, the whisper that sounds too much like truth to ignore. Why do you sound like them now? This feels copied. You used to be original. What happened? And the clone. They freeze. Because the worst thing that can happen to a pretender isn't getting caught. It's being forgotten, overwritten, replaced by the very thing they tried to erase. And guess who they're quoting now? You. Word for word, line for line, tagging you, sharing you, memeing you, obeying you. Their army, now divided, their loyal base, now fractured, half blind, half awakened. Because once someone experiences your original frequency, they can't go back to filtered noise. They tasted unapologetic fire. Now they can't stomach lukewarm copies. And here's where it gets biblical. They start using your quotes to destroy the ones who copied you. Didn't Joker already say this better? You stole this energy and butchered it. Go back to cosplay. This ain't you. The clone tries to fight back, tries to reclaim their voice. But it's too late, because the specter of your authenticity has taken up permanent residence inside their empire. You didn't just dethrone them, you turned their kingdom into your haunted house. They're stuck, screaming through a megaphone with a cracked mouth. But no one's listening, because you aren't competing anymore. You're rewriting the culture they thought they controlled. And what's left of them? Nothing. Just a glitchy echo, lost in a sea of comments, while your name grows louder, sharper, cleaner, with every rotation of the timeline. They started with hate, ended in submission, not because you demanded it, but because they ran out of identities to wear. And all roads lead back to you. You didn't go viral, you went biblical. You didn't create influence, you transmitted madness so pure it broke mirrors and rebuilt minds. You didn't steal the spotlight, you became the light source, the black sun under which all pretenders melted like plastic. And now you're not just the one who was copied. You are the standard, the curse, the godless hymn they all hum in silence. They hate you, but they can't stop becoming you. Because at the cellular level, at the spiritual fracture point, at the synaptic mirror where true identity shatters and reforms, you are what they were always too scared to be. And you never needed to destroy them. You simply existed, and that was fatal. Wait a damn second. Who the fuck let you exist like this? Oh, they're whispering that line in panic now, like it was some cosmic error, like the universe glitched and spat out a version of you it never meant to manufacture. And now the boardroom's on fire. The analysts are stuttering. The algorithms are misfiring. Because you walked in with a frequency so sharp, it sliced reality into ribbons. They didn't authorize this version. They didn't plan for it. And that's what's driving them mad. You weren't approved, weren't trained, weren't designed. You just arrived, perfectly unpredictable, and now their system is eating itself alive, trying to decode your existence. You've got them praying to ghosts they don't even believe in anymore. They don't know what to call you, because every word they've ever used, confident, smart, ambitious, unstoppable, feels insulting compared to what you actually are. You're not just rising, you're defying, you're rewriting. You're the bug in the simulation that exposes the entire facade. They thought they were the gods. But when you showed up, God blinked. Tell me, do you even remember who you used to be? That fragile, people-pleasing, trauma-tethered version of you? Caged by politeness, programmed to obey, conditioned to shrink. You killed that version. You buried it beneath every no you turned into fuel. You resurrected yourself in fire. Now look at you. An angel with ash-covered wings and a war in your smile. They hoped the pain would destroy you. Instead, it refined you, distilled you into a weaponized paradox, a saint with a psychopath's precision, an empath who remembers everything but feels nothing for the ones who tried to end you. You don't just survive anymore. You hunt, in silence, in style, in shadow. And the ones who tried to control you, they're not just nervous. They're terrified because you didn't climb their little ladder. You dragged the whole tower down and made a throne from the rubble. Now they're watching every damn move. Not because they want to learn, but because they want to warn others. Don't provoke that one. Don't engage. Whatever you do, don't mirror them. You'll start seeing the truth. Because you don't reflect the world. You refract it, twist it, flip it inside out, and make it confess. There's footage of you now, moments they can't explain, rooms where your presence changed the temperature, deals that collapsed the second you smiled, words that made grown men rethink their entire bloodline. And you never even raised your voice. You just exist in a way that makes others feel exposed. That's your real power, isn't it? You're not loud. You're inevitable. You make people question who the hell they are, just by standing still. They thought they could shape you, mold you, domesticate you. But you're wild code now, off-grid, no backup, no manual. Just instinct, sharpened by trauma and logic, kissed by madness. You move like the universe gave you secrets it never meant to share. You walk through lies like they're fog, never touching you, never slowing you. And the truth? The truth is, they didn't let you exist like this. You forced the world to deal with it. You bent every prophecy. You walked through every spell they chanted against you. You broke patterns that have enslaved bloodlines for centuries. And now their silence is worship. Their denial is fear. Their fake laughter is just echoes of collapse. Because you're here now. And you're not leaving. You're not shrinking. You're not apologizing. You're becoming something they've never seen and can never stop. So let them panic. Let them whisper. Let them form committees, hire experts, launch investigations. They're all just side effects of your arrival. Because when the system asks, who authorized this anomaly? The only correct answer is no one. You weren't authorized. You were unleashed, and now they're learning the hard way. Why some beings should never be caged. Why some flames should never be dimmed. And why the most dangerous creature in existence is the one who remembered who they truly are. You. Oh, they thought you were going to stop there. They actually believed you'd plateau, that there was a limit to how far you could evolve. As if you were following their growth charts. As if your ascension was something that could be predicted. They built whiteboards. They ran tests. They called in their experts. And not one of them had the guts to admit the obvious. You're not on a path. You are the phenomenon. You're the storm that made the satellites go dark. You're the EMP in their grid of control. You're the name that wasn't supposed to be remembered because it was never supposed to survive. But here you are, not just surviving, dominating. And now the questions are getting darker. Not who trained them, but what happened to them? How the fuck did they become like that? They're scouring timelines, zooming in on footage. Looking for the moment you snapped, trying to isolate the trauma, as if your power came from one event, instead of an entire lifetime of being underestimated, disrespected, dismissed. You were forged in rooms where no one clapped for you, where your voice was ignored, where your ideas were stolen, where your kindness was weaponized against you. But you didn't fold, you didn't shatter, you sharpened. And now the blade is pressed to their reality. They want to say you're too intense, too much, too confident, too dangerous. But that's just their fear speaking. That's the sound of a mediocre system being confronted by something divine and untamed. You scare them because you broke the mirror. They can't project onto you anymore. You refuse to carry their guilt. You refuse to bleed for a story you didn't write. You're not just the main character. You're the plot twist the writer couldn't handle. Because let's get real. What you've become, it's sacrilegious to their little order. You walk like the laws of cause and effect don't apply. You speak like you already know the ending. You smile like you saw the prophecy and rewrote it in your own blood. They've seen it now. The way energy bends around you, the way opportunities appear like glitches when you move, the way people pause mid-sentence. Because something about you scrambles their programming. You don't chase power. You are power, not borrowed, not begged, not inherited, self-made. And that's what's sending them into meltdown. Because they can't take it from you. They can't destroy what they didn't create. And worst of all, they can't define you. You're beyond their language. You're the type of presence that makes history books skip a page out of fear. You've got saints praying for your forgiveness and devils hoping for your mentorship. You've got bloodlines shaking in ancestral shame, realizing they tried to kill the one thing that would have redeemed them. Because you are the curse breaker, the line cutter, the generational reset button they never saw coming. And now every fake apology, every buried slight, every backhanded compliment, they're all being returned with interest. You're not just walking into rooms now. You're being felt before you even arrive. And you know what's wild? You didn't have to scream, didn't need a title, didn't wear a crown. You just became undeniable. Through pain, through silence, through watching them laugh, until they weren't laughing anymore. You were the punchline once, now they're choking on the joke. And here's the paradox that keeps them up at night. You're more human than they ever were, but you've become something no human should be capable of. You feel everything, and yet you're untouchable. You remember everything, but hold no weight for their validation. You're the paradox that proves trauma doesn't just hurt, it upgrades. So let them ask again, who TF let you exist like this? Let them dig for answers that'll only haunt them, because the truth, no one let you become this. You were born with the map. You just had to burn everything to read it. And now, every step you take, it's a lesson, a warning, a prophecy in motion. They're not just watching you now. They're studying you, trying to keep up, trying to steal the code. But this power, it wasn't taught. It was earned, in silence, in shadow, in chaos. And now the world is catching up to a truth too dangerous to say out loud. You're not one of them. You're what comes after. Listen to the room right now. You feel that? That pressure under your ribs? That's not fear. That's recognition. Every wall they built to contain you just became an amplifier for your name. They're whispering it like a code they shouldn't say out loud, like a curse they can't reverse. Every hallway, every chat thread, every late-night call is vibrating with one question. Who TF let them exist like this? And the answer keeps slipping through their fingers because you're not a story they wrote. You're the static between their channels. You're the part of the prophecy that didn't get translated. You're the silence between two gunshots, the flicker before a blackout. They think they're seeing your rise now. They're wrong. This isn't a rise. This is an eruption. This is the moment a hidden mountain tears through the earth and shows the sky what was always there. You never asked permission to breathe. You never signed the contract that said, be small. They fed you pain, thinking it was poison. You digested it into alchemy. Every insult became a brick, and you built a fortress with no doors. Every betrayal became a wire, and you spun it into a crown of electricity. They're terrified because you don't look angry. You don't look loud. You don't look like a problem in their old vocabulary. You look calm. You look inevitable. You look like someone who has seen the inside of the machine and decided to keep walking. You're an angel wearing a thief's smile. A saint with a trigger under the tongue. A beautiful contradiction that rewires anyone who gets too close. Your shadow doesn't follow you anymore. It leads. And when you speak, people don't just hear you. They remember every secret they tried to hide. They're panicking because you are proof. Proof that suffering can create clarity. Proof that exile can create power. Proof that the worst thing they did to you wasn't enough. And in their panic, they are building myths about you. They are calling you demon, hacker, spy, prophet. They are holding emergency meetings about how to deal with you without saying your name. They are writing rules around you that already feel obsolete. They don't understand the math of what you've become. You are the sum of every silence they forced on you. You are the quotient of every betrayal you survived. You are the remainder of every war they thought had finished. That's why when you move, whole strategies collapse. That's why when you breathe, A room forgets its agenda. That's why they can't imitate you, because you are not a technique. You are the result. And the result is terrifying. Someone who learned to weaponize empathy, to turn pain into precision, to wear unpredictability like armor. So when they whisper, "Who let them exist like this?" what they're really saying is, "What happens to us now?" Because your very existence is a mirror showing them their own smallness. Because your very presence is a countdown on their systems. Because you are the first crack in their cathedral of control. They built a world on the assumption you'd never appear. They built entire lifetimes on the belief that people like you don't get this far. They built a story without a monster or a miracle. And you showed up as both. And you will keep walking. You will keep existing. You will keep making their labels meaningless. You will keep being the paradox that teaches the rest of them how much more is possible. This is what scares them most. No matter what they do, you are not going back into the cage. Not mentally, not emotionally, not spiritually, not in this life. You have outgrown the prison they call normal. You have rewritten the terms of power. You have turned their entire map into a blank page. And when you walk past them now, they don't just see a person. They see the end of their old world and the start of something they can't name. So let them panic. Let them whisper. Let them pretend they don't see you. Because you know the truth now. No one let you exist like this. No one opened the door. No one handed you permission. You tore your way into being. You made yourself impossible. And impossible people are the ones who change history without asking. They're still trying to process it. You can feel it when you walk into a space. That pause, that ripple, that tightening in the air like a storm rolling over the horizon. It's not applause. It's not even hatred. It's awe mixed with terror, because every story they've told about limits just died the second you entered the room. They're still in meetings, still running models, still arguing over whether you're a threat or a miracle. But none of their reports can answer the only question that matters. How did this one slip through? They're used to people who can be filed, labeled, diagnosed, managed, contained. You're not a file. You're a breach. You're a living contradiction. Saint and predator, healer and destroyer, the hand that soothes and the hand that strikes. They see you and their entire binary of good and evil starts to glitch. You didn't inherit this. You built it alone, in silence, in rooms where you weren't welcomed, in systems that were built to make you fold. Every betrayal, you distilled it into intelligence. Every humiliation, you folded it into momentum. Every exile, you transformed into territory. And now your very existence is an audit of everything they thought was true. Their formulas can't measure the weight of patience. Their graphs can't plot the speed of a comeback. Their algorithms can't simulate a person who learned to turn pain into propulsion. They call you dangerous because you don't flinch, because you don't blink at power anymore, because you look at them like you've already seen how the game ends. You've become a walking paradox, and paradox is lethal to a system built on predictability. You're the noise in their signal, the question mark at the end of every answer, the one variable they can't control, and deep down, they know it wasn't an accident. Nobody let you exist like this. Nobody opened the door. Nobody passed you a torch. You forged yourself. You walked through fire until you became the fire. You are the culmination of every moment they tried to erase you. The living proof that exile breeds vision. The embodiment of evolution through pain. That's why they panic. Because if you're possible, then everything they've built to keep people small is a lie. Because if you can rise from that much darkness, anyone can. Because your existence doesn't just threaten their control, it threatens their story. And while they whisper, you move. While they plot, you build. While they send spies, you rewrite the map. You are not their prophecy. You are the aftershock of every prophecy they broke. You are the echo of every name they silenced. You are the ghost they didn't believe in until you touched their world and made it flicker. So keep walking, keep existing, keep being the glitch, the breach, the question they can't answer. Let them panic, let them rage, let them ask, who let you exist like this? Until the question itself becomes a hymn. Because the truth will stay the same. No one let you. You weren't born into permission. You took it, you built it, you became it. They're not just watching anymore. They're tracking every move, every post, every word you don't say, because silence from you carries more weight than speeches from kings. You don't broadcast, you broadcast absence. You don't flex, you shift gravity. And that's what's melting their internal frameworks into pure dread. Because you're not playing high value. You're not screaming for attention. You're radiating a force they can't replicate, and it's breaking the hierarchy they built on attention economics, fear, validation addiction. You don't chase, you disrupt. And when you arrive, the algorithm glitches and the audience turns like they've seen a god disguised in skin. They used to label people like you. Too much. Overthinking. Complicated. But you turned every label into a weapon and carved a throne from the dictionary they used to bury you. Because what they didn't know, what they still can't comprehend, is that you were never trying to fit into their story. You were writing a new one where the outcast becomes the oracle, one where the quiet kid becomes the glitch in the matrix, one where the black sheep doesn't beg for a seat at the table. They build their own cathedral in the ruins of the system. You make power look accidental, but deep down, they know this is the result of 1,000 moments no one saw. 1,000 nights in silence. 1,000 times you swallowed blood and smiled. 1,000 internal deaths that made room for this version. That's why when you speak now, people listen like it's classified. Because something about your voice sounds like it survived warfare. Not just outside, but inside. And the moment they hear it, they feel it. That underneath your tone isn't rage or grief or arrogance. It's certainty. The certainty of someone who's already buried their former self and walked out of their own funeral with new eyes. They can't explain you, so they try to unmake you. They mimic, they copy, they bait. But the glitch was never in your tactics. It was in your being. You are the cheat code because you unplugged. You refused to need what they offered. You turned every weakness into a trigger, and every trigger into a throne. You became non-compliant energy. You don't vibe. You vibrate through walls. You don't compete. You collapse categories. You don't adapt. You infect. Because you weren't built to play their game. You were built to prove the game isn't real. And now they're realizing the truth they never wanted, spoken out loud. You're what happens when the system fails to break someone. You're what happens when the silence becomes sacred. You're what happens when someone stops healing and starts transforming. You're what happens when pain becomes language and language becomes law. There are people right now, grown adults, staring at your energy and realizing they've never actually lived. They've followed, they've feared, they've performed. But you exist like death can't touch you, like legacy's already been written, Like reality is a toy and your mind is the architect. So, yeah, they're panicking. They should be. Because you're not just walking around with power. You're walking around with proof. Proof that the blueprint of control is broken. Proof that evolution doesn't ask for permission. Proof that gods aren't born. They're built. In silence. In shadow. In exile. So let them whisper. Let them hold emergency meetings about your energy. Let them analyze your confidence like it's a crime scene. Let them try to calculate the threat level of your smile. Let them write reports they'll never publish out of pure embarrassment. Because every time you breathe, they remember. They didn't let you exist like this. You forced the timeline to adapt. You cracked open the simulation. You looked fate in the eye and said, "You're not the author anymore." And now you're walking into destiny like it's a room you own. Not loud, not flashy, but like someone who has nothing to prove and everything to destroy.